What's going on, YouTube? Got the fire going over here. Got some lights lit up outside. Just the TV on for a little ambient light. But when the sun goes down, I like to keep the house kind of dark and the outside lit up and the fire going. It just gives me that real calm, easy feeling. And this is going to be some of that ugliness, the good, the bad, the ugly. But this has been on my mind. Somebody watched an old video and brought it to my attention, so I watched it, and there was some stuff in there that I forgot to mention, and it's too important to leave out. And I know there are quite a few people out there that struggle, so. When I was a kid, alcohol was socially acceptable. It was everywhere. The word alcoholic, you never heard anybody even use that word. And the only thing you ever heard somebody would say from time to time is, oh, that guy's a boozer, right? It was downplayed. It was downplayed so much that if you go into the Wayback Machine, alcohol companies, beer companies used to sell little tiny beer cans. I'm sure if you look it up, oh, there we go, we got some light. If you look it up, they were selling little 6-ounce beer cans. That was marketed towards children. I remember being at a barbecue and an adult handed me one of these little itsy bitsy beers and sipping on it and saying how gross it was. And they said, oh, since you opened it, you got to finish it. So they forced me to drink the whole thing, and it was nasty. I don't remember getting drunk, but you're talking, I was 5, 6 years old when I went to the foster home. So this was before that. First time I drank beer was, I don't know, 3, 4 years old. I'm pretty sure this is how it went for Mom. My mom's mom was a nurse. She had a kid or two before she met my grandfather. Then she hooked up with my grandfather and had 3 more. My mom, my aunt, and my uncle. And by the time my mom was 12 years old, her mom left her dad, right, and moved to Palm Springs. And she was a nurse. And I remember Mom telling me years later when Nana came and stayed with us, yeah, she didn't like being called Grandma either. We had to call her Nana. And Nana had this big, huge brandy snifter thing. It looked like a fishbowl. It was so big. And it was stuffed full of matches. From all the bars she'd been to, she'd collect a book of matches. And there was a bunch of them. So Grandma was a drinker. And so was Mom. And Mom struggled with sobriety. She would go back and forth between the Bible and Billy Graham and VO booze, whatever, whiskey. I think it's whiskey VO. I just remember the initials VO on the bottle. So that was when I was little, right? Fast forward a little bit to junior high school. I come back home from the foster homes, and then my brothers came home, and we ran amok in this little shit neighborhood we lived in. I always call it welfare, food stamps, and cockroaches because that's what it was, right? We lived in this little ghetto in Redwood. And this is how it went. the guys that I ran around with all smoked weed. I told a story about the first time I snorted cocaine. I was still riding a bicycle. We hung out with these kids whose family owned Jay's Towing in Redwood City. Actually, the tow company was out of East Palo Alto. That's EPA. And Blacktown. Almost, I don't know, EPA was probably 90% black folk. And the little shit neighborhood I lived in was probably the same, right? Because it's where all the poor people live. So anyway, I was exposed to whatever drugs you could get. In fact, the cocaine that I snorted came from the cocaine cowboy. There were only 2 people that brought cocaine into the United States back then, and I'm sure I snorted blow from Johnny Depp was in the movie that they made about this guy. So anyway, that's a side note. But to get back to the booze, the deal was with me and Mom would buy up for us and we'd get her stoned, right? She didn't know where to get weed. I knew where to get weed, and she would get us the booze. So Mom said as long as we drank at home, she'd buy up. So when your mom is buying you alcohol when you're in 7th grade, you know what I'm saying? So the booze was there. And I watch it kill my wife. I watch it contribute to my brother's death. I watched it put my other brother in San Quentin, and it almost killed me. Right? So being an alcoholic is no fucking joke. For me, most of my life drinking was recreational. Even though I started drinking that young, I was always very responsible because Mom said, you're the man of the house. You got to watch out for your brothers. So I couldn't wild out like everybody else. I always had this in the back of my head, this responsibility for my family. So that kind of helped keep me in check. It wasn't until I went through this long, shitty workman's comp case and had nobody to rein me in, and then there was nobody I was responsible for, and I climbed into a bottle of Jameson and didn't come out for almost 5 years. And it was killing me. I was working in the backyard at the mobile home park, working on the man cave, building that man cave, and sweating my ass off in the summer. And then one day I'm like, what the fuck is that smell? And it was ammonia. I could smell ammonia. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I smelt my clothes and I was like, holy shit, that's me. So my perspiration was smelling like ammonia. And I looked it up and they talked about alcoholism and what booze, when your liver's starting to go and all that shit. So it was like, oh fuck, I gotta quit, right? That was the beginning of the end of my relationship with alcohol. I knew it was killing me. And then when Sonny died, and I found out how she died, it was life-changing. And if you don't know the story about Wifey, I'm going to tell it right quick. And for you that already heard it, just fast forward. So me and Wifey, we split up. We tried to get divorced and we didn't have no money, so we tried to do it ourselves. And I tried to do it. Her lazy ass didn't do shit, but I tried 3 different times and fucked it up every time. So we never did get divorced. And over the years, her and I, we'd always stayed in touch over the phone. Once or twice we'd get together and talk or whatever, but the relationship had been over for over 20 years. And for the last 2 years of Sonny's life, I didn't speak to her at all because she got hooked up with this fucking piece of shit, David Boring, DJ Sugar B. And One of Sonny's girlfriends, Jamie, God bless you, girlfriend, called me up and said, hey, I got some bad news. Sonny's dead. And initially I was like, oh, that's too bad. I really didn't give a shit because I hadn't spoke to her in so long. And then when I got off the phone with Jamie, it just hit me like a ton of bricks and I broke down. So I reached out to Jamie and I said, hey, look, I gotta find out where, what's going on. I gotta take care of this. And so Jamie helped me find out, where Sonny was, and I reached out to the coroner and I paid for her cremation. And I got her ashes over on the counter. And during that process, I don't remember if I reached out to Kathleen or she found out. And Kathleen was the lady Sonny lived with when I met her. Sonny called her roommate. Turns out Kathleen was her mom. And Kathleen was a black lady. And I was told that her mom was a call girl or a hooker or something by this dickhead Lenny. And I didn't believe him. And when I fronted Sonny on it, she denied it. And long story short, Sonny was emancipated. And she moved out when she was 16. And she was her own person. And she changed her last name. Having a conversation with Dave Dog about all this crazy stuff with Sonny, him and I kind of, put two and two together and came up with the conclusion that Sonny was probably a trick baby. And she basically divorced her mom because she didn't want nobody to know that she was the result of a trick. I don't know. That's just a guess. But by everything that, looking back and thinking about it with no prejudice and just a clear head, and sometimes you don't want to know the truth, right? Whether Sonny didn't want to know her truth or I didn't want to know Sonny's truth about whatever, the facts are the facts, right? So alcohol killed Sonny. She passed out. Well, actually, she didn't pass out. She died on this dude's toilet, puking blood on the floor because her organs were bleeding internally from the booze, from the alcoholism. And she had been dead on this dude's toilet so long, rigor mortis set in. True story. So when it comes to booze and what I've seen and lived through, it don't get much worse. And when you watch my video that I just posted before this one, that's why I'm so excited about being here. Because of where I came from and where I'm at now, to me, it's like I've already died and gone to heaven. I kid you not. It's just that powerful for me. So if you're struggling with booze, quit. Don't fuck around. No teetotaling, no just a little bit kind of bullshit. It'll kill you. And you will die a horrible death. If you want to die puking blood on the floor while your organs are bleeding and your family finds you like that, good luck with yourself. I know this is heavy. I know this is really hard to listen to, but when you watch that last video, or if you see this one first, go watch that one. Because I went from there to here. So when I say I've seen some shit, I've seen some shit. And when it comes to gratitude, you have no idea how grateful I am that I'm still here and that this is where I'm at. And I've said it more than once. The reason I'm here is because of a prayer. A dear friend said a prayer for me, and it changed my life. Thank you, young lady. Thank you. All right, y'all. I know it's tough, but there's a lesson here for the ones that are struggling. I hope you're listening, because I love you. I don't tell these stories because it makes me feel good, right? I tell them because somebody needs to hear it. So go love yourself. And love the ones that love you back. Do your best with the rest, especially the alcoholics, because they need you. Don't let the kids hear. They're too young. Keep your chin up. Johnny O and the girls love you, and we'll talk soon.